Hey there, you're in the listening station, and here's my take on the new album, Rush by Maneskin. After a few listens to the album, I needed to check some other reviews and, really spark my internal debate. And I have to say, I was surprised at how broad the spectrum was on this album. There's really critical reviews out there, and there's really people just eating it up with a spoon. For me, I'm somewhat on the positive side of the fence for this one. Rush is a good album, but it's not a great album. There are plenty of aspects of this album that I have to say I think really hold it back. I'm going to start with those so I can end this video on a positive note. And like and subscribe so you can get in the conversation. So first off, this puppy needs an edit. I think there are songs on here that they just don't need to be on this album. They just need to be reordered too. I think there's too many songs, and what's left should be reorganized. It doesn't feel like a cohesive listening experience. It's just a pile of songs. And then towards the end, there's like this rock block of Italian songs, and then they lump at the very end the songs that they already pre-released. So there's really no cohesion in this. Another overarching negative is something that permeates this whole album is how many times you think to yourself, oh, this reminds me of ... fill in the blank there. There's so many instances when you're like, was that in this song? Like when you go back to when Supermodel dropped, right? Everyone was up in arms because that riff, it sounded like it was lifted from Smells Like Teen Spirit from Nirvana. But it's not just that track, you get that feeling like throughout the album, right? There's Timezone, which starts with a very under the bridge kind of opening, from the Chili Peppers. And then La Fine, that has a very more human than human feel from Rob Zombie. And this goes on and on. There's Franz Ferdinand. There's all these other influences that keep popping up. And it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it could be just the band who they love their influences and it shows in their music, and that's fine. It's just kind of the sheer volume of it. I think it dilutes finding out what this band's sound really is. Another issue that I have with is that lyrically some of it just falls flat. Read Your Diary, maybe trying to do a little shock value with some of their lyrics. And Timezone, which is a great sounding track, it's a great song, but all of a sudden it takes like this explicit turn for no reason. It's just not good songwriting. It comes across lazy. It comes across like they just didn't have anything clever to say, which is too bad because, like I said, it sounds like it's a really cool song, and it sounds great. Just some of the lyrics aren't really doing it. And the repetition on the album, a lot of the songs, there's a lot of different levels of repetition. In the songs themselves, a lot of repetitions within the songs, like the songs really just don't develop. There's repetition throughout the whole album in terms of just the feel and the sound. By the time you get to track 11 out of 17, you're like, I pretty much heard everything on here. I've heard a lot of this sound already. And it gets a little tiresome. Even Mark Chapman, which is sung in Italian, still is repetitive. And speaking of this track, I think having a song with the name of a murderer while singing in Italian just kind of comes off as a gimmick. People are like, oh, what are they saying? Oh, I don't know. It's kind of weak. And then aspects, oh, this is the same thing that killed Bla 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 for me. It's just weak lyrics and it falls flat. It doesn't grow. So they start with that blah, 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 blah shtick in the beginning, but then it never changes. It never transforms into like a cool song, right? It's just over and over again with that same bop, bop, bop riff, bop, bop, bop. And they change the words in there and everything, but it's that repetitive droning on and on. It gets tiresome very quickly. Speaking of gimmicks, Mammamia, another track, really doesn't bring anything to the table. And sadly, just the sheer amount of gimmicks on this album, it makes you rethink Tom Morello's really cool guitar solo in Gossip. You wonder, what's it all about? Is it another gimmick? When you should be thinking, oh wow, it's Tom Morello, that's great. But you have to make your own decision on that. But let's switch gears. Let's switch gears and go to the positive notes, because I do like a lot of this album, and I think overall it's a fun listen. And there are some gems on here: Gasoline, La Fine, If Not For You. Those are all tracks that I could see being on playlists of mine. I really dig those. It's worth a listen. It's definitely worth a listen. Especially since reviews have been so mixed. You have to really find out where you land. Personally, I rate this a 6 out of 10. And in the description, I actually did my own edit of Rush. And I gotta say, my version of this album is kind of a restructure of how I think the tracks should be reordered. And 4 tracks didn't make it. So check it out. It's in the description. Let me know what you think. Until then, you've been in the listening station.